Good evening. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Board of Directors of Oxford Preparatory Academy, May 28th, 2020. 5:30 p.m. open session, closed session at 5:40 p.m., returning to open session at 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting will be teleconferenced pursuant to Executive Orders N-25-20 and N-29-20. The Board of Directors and employees of Oxford Preparatory Academy shall meet via the Zoom meeting platform. Members of the public who wish to access this board meeting may do so at the URL provided on the agenda or dialing into phone number 1-669-900-6833, meeting ID 990-7490-8877. The live stream can also be accessed from the OPA website. Members of the public who wish to comment during the board meeting should complete the request to address the OPA Board of Directors form and submit it in order to address the Oxford Preparatory Academy Board of Trustees. Requests must be submitted by 5:30 p.m. on 5/28/2020. You will be called on during the Zoom meeting to address the board either during public comments or prior to an agenda item. Please either log in to the Zoom meeting at the URL on our agenda or call into 1-669-900-6833. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes. If an interpreter is needed for comments, they will be translated to English and the time limit shall be 6 minutes. The Board of Directors may limit the total time for public comment to a reasonable time. The board reserves the right to mute or remove a member of the public if comments or actions disrupt the board meeting. Start with call to order and flag salute. Mary Campos.
Present.
Joseph Haney is present. Raymond Jackson.
Here, present happily.
Oh, you threw me there. And Deli Travis.
Present.
All right. Please rise for the flag salute. Hand on the heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up is D, approval of agenda for the regular meeting of the Oxford Preparatory Academy Board of Directors on May 28th, 2020. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Oxford Preparatory Academy Board of Directors on May 28th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve item D on the agenda.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda for the regular meeting say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. We will now convene to closed session. In closed session, we will discuss public employee discipline, dismissal, release pursuant to Ed Code Section 54957. Do we have any comments on this?
We do not.
All right, then we will now go to closed session at 5:48 p.m. All right, we return to open session at 7:15 p.m. No action was taken in closed session. Next up is item 4, public comment, oral communications, non-agenda items. The public, including public attending a teleconference location, are invited to address the board regarding items not listed on the agenda. No individual presentation shall be for more than 3 minutes, and the total time for this purpose shall not exceed 15 minutes. Ordinarily, board members will not respond to presentations and no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following a presentation. Please turn in the request to address the OPA Board of Directors form and submit it in order to address the Oxford Preparatory Academy Board of Trustees. You should probably change that to Board of Directors.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any comment cards?
Oh, we do not have any comment cards.
Okay. So we'll move to the consent calendar and have the following items. A, minutes from the regular meeting of the OPA Board of Directors on April 23rd, 2020. Minutes from the special meeting, May 20th, 2020. C, personnel actions. And it is recommended the board approve consent items A, B, and C. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve consent items A, B, and C.
And do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can only, one vote per thumb. There you go. I think that was unanimous. I heard 2 yays.
You can do a roll call.
All right, roll call. Campos.
Mary, you're muted.
Present.
No, are you in favor of this or not?
I think that's already.
He thought you were doing roll call.
You were muted, so we couldn't hear. All right, I'll do this one more time. All those in favor of consent items A, B, and C, and board members, please make sure you are not currently muted. Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That sounds like unanimous consent. All those opposed? This motion passes. Next up is item 6, items scheduled for presentation. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes, and the first up is A, governors may revise for fiscal year 2020-2021. Ms. Parikh with EdTech.
And I will make you a co-presenter.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So just starting out with kind of an overview of how the state budget develops their budget for next year. So we talk about the May revise, which happens in May. But in general, the budget process starts back in January when we get a preliminary budget from the governor. Typically in May, we get an updated projection based on typically the tax deadline is in April. And so we see that kind of a more realistic update for what the budget should look like next year. So we get that update from the governor of what, the funding rates and everything will be. And so that's when we talk about the May revise. We're talking about the governor's updated projections for next year. The governor proposes those and the legislature then reviews it and makes adjustments. And so right now, the legislature is reviewing all the proposals and making adjustments, proposing tweaks. And then ultimately it gets approved and passed in June. This year with COVID, we saw pretty big shifts between the January preliminary budget to the May revise. And then we're also expecting the state tax deadline being shifted from April to July to result in potential revisions to the budget. The governor did indicate and put in clauses to adjust the numbers. So putting in some, if the revenue ends up better than what they're projecting, putting in clauses for what could be taken out. But there is still the potential that things could end up worse than what the state is projecting at this time. And we could see potential additional revisions come August. And so this year there is more uncertainty than a typical year with COVID, but it was nice to get kind of actual update in terms of what the projection's looking like for next year. So in general, what the May revise indicated is there's an estimated state revenue loss of about 42 billion. The overall loss that the state deficit that the state projects is about 54 billion, including increased expenses. And so we're looking at a pretty significant loss between this year and next year. You can see that the state has the option to backfill some of that deficit with reserves, but only a portion of it can be spent used at a time. And so it's not enough to backfill that whole deficit. And so unless there's additional federal stimulus dollars, which the governor did mention several times in the May revise of additional federal stimulus dollars could really change the picture that we're looking at, there is anticipated to be a shortfall next year. This is important for K-12 education because K-12 education receives about 40% of the state budget. So when we're talking about a deficit at the state level, we're talking about a deficit at the K-12 budget level as well. For K-12 education, the way that the state can manage it is through rate cuts and deferrals. And so the May revise proposed both of those. This slide goes over the main rate adjustments that were proposed. So the LCFF COLA, so that's your main source of funding, is proposed to decrease. It's actually in this, since we put this together, FCMAT has released updated projection of it's supposed to reduce by 7.92% instead of 7.69, so almost 8% reduction from this year's funding to next year's funding. To give you kind of a ballpark of what that means, it's about $600 per ADA or about $800,000 between this year and next year that we're seeing a shortfall on revenue. From the January state budget, the governor's budget back in January, it is a 10% decline. So we were anticipating an increase in funding between this year and next year, and that has been eliminated in addition to seeing a cut. And so from what we were anticipating next year to be, it's essentially $1 million shortfall in LCFF revenue. In terms of STRS and PERS, those are your retirement contributions on behalf of employees. The governor has proposed reducing the contribution rate as a percent of wages. So the employer would be contributing a smaller percentage than was previously anticipated. Both STRS and PERS have been increasing these percentages over the last several years. But STRS actually is proposed with this rate, the 16.15%, is actually a decrease from this current year's funding. So that is savings. It nets to less than about 200,000, so nowhere near enough to offset that LCFF COLA adjustment in terms of savings to expenses. The governor also proposed reduced funding for other categorical programs that don't necessarily apply to OOPA. The governor also set aside, so you are getting some CARES Act funding directly from the federal government. It's a small portion, it's about $12,000 per school, but the governor proposed taking some of the CARES Act funding that the state received and allocating it to LEAs. So about 4.4 billion that could be allocated to LEAs. This is a point just in the last few days, even we've been hearing updated discussions on how this would be allocated to schools or how schools could tap into, but it could be a pretty significant source of funding. We heard originally the Mayor Revise included about a little less than $2,000 per special ed student that schools would receive. And then if the school had higher than 55% unduplicated, which is your low income English learners and foster youth population, you could get potential of $700 per ADA. So that could, really offset some of that LCFF drop we were talking about earlier. Just in the last few days, we've been hearing the legislature has been discussing different ways of allocating this. You don't qualify with that 55% threshold, but the legislature has been proposing ways that it might be allocated to all schools. And so that could be something where you might be able to tap into, though it could also be restricted and actually increase expenses with the additional revenue. So that's something also that we'll figure out as we get more info. The last point is just that the programs that were all proposed in January in the governor's preliminary budget were eliminated except for special ed. Special ed rates are anticipated to increase from this year to next year. So that does offset a little bit, but nowhere near as much as a potential impact as the CARES Part 2 funding. In terms of deferrals, we're looking at the May Revise indicated a deferral this year in June to next fiscal year. So we'll see a couple $100,000 of your cash that normally comes before June 30th being pushed into next year. In 2021, we are also anticipating partial deferrals of both April, May, and June. The good thing is that you receive most of your funding from in lieu funding from your district. And so that funding is actually not usually subject to deferrals. It's just the state aid portion. And so the impact next year shouldn't be huge, though we're still seeing a couple $100,000 of cash from next year being pushed into the following year. And so that's something, that we'll want to make sure that we plan for. And then in terms of, there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the budget. Open items is, are we going to see additional federal stimulus dollars? The HEROES Act is something that could potentially, if it's something that the schools can tap into, the state can tap into, it could help backfill some of this. We talked about the CARES Act Part 2 funding that's still up in the air. And then there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of the structure of school, how attendance is going to be calculated. That's how you receive most of your funding. And there's just a lot of uncertainty on how that's going to be calculated next year, depending on how the structure is. And then how long does it take for the economy to recover? So even though we're saying, in August, we might get a new proposal, if we have potential shutdowns again in the fall, that could drag this out and we could see bigger impacts down the road. So definitely thinking about multi-year planning knowing that that's something that could create a lot of uncertainty and a lot of reduced rates in the future. One thing we wanted to include is just in terms of the historical rate. So this graph shows in green the average rate per ADA that was from 2001 to 2013 during that kind of time where the last recession was. And then if the rate was just adjusting with cost of living, kind of where that line would be the blue line. But if we look at the green line, you can see in 2008 that we had a kind of a spike in funding, and then with the recession, we saw that decline over the next 2 years and then stabilize. So as we're talking about multi-year planning, just thinking about, next year we might see, that CARES Act funding coming as a one-time source of funding, but future years are going to be flat funding or potentially reduced funding. So being able to manage that if there's not additional, stimulus dollars coming in subsequent years. So that's something to also consider. Any questions on any of that? That was all I had on the May revise portion.
Questions from the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item B, the OPA financial update for May 2020 with Ms. Parikh, EdTech, and Dr. Kernan, Chief Academic Officer.
Yeah, so overall, in terms of the forecast for this year, we're looking pretty consistent to what we've previously presented. We're looking slightly better at both sites, primarily driven through adjustments in compensation and benefits. So at SOC, we can see we were previously projecting an operating surplus of $976,000. We're now a little bit over $1 million in terms of our operating surplus for the year. The primary driver being adjustments in terms of positions and hours in compensation and benefits of about 51,000. The other adjustments are fairly small, federal revenue adjustments to Title I based on CDE schedules, books and supplies, a few expenses related to distance learning that exceeded the forecast, and then services and other operating the 10,000, which was an increase related to your lease costs as we trued that up based on the lease that we received. At SV, similar story, we're seeing an improved operating income from 369,000 to 397. The primary driver again is compensation and benefits. Here we're seeing some savings in services and other operating related to your insurance. More of it was allocated to SOC than SV. And then we also received a little bit in local revenue, about $1,000, and then federal revenue, again, that's related to title funding based off of what was released from CDE schedules. And then the only other thing we have is the check and credit card register with the items that we flagged. So when we were talking about the books and supplies exceeding the forecast, the Zoom and Screencastify were the two expenses we flagged there, along with everyday speech. And then we also did flag this bill with Cintas, but it is in the process of being refunded. So that one will be refunded at a later time. And that's all we had. There wasn't any significant adjustments to cash flow at this point.
All right, any questions from the board? All right, thank you very much. Item C is the 2020-2021 OPA Employee Benefits Package. Mr. Barley, COO.
Thank you. Are you going to?
I'm going to make you a co-host. You're good.
Let's see. 1 second. Thank you. All right. Everybody sees the presentation in front of you.
Switch your screens.
Let's see.
I see your finger. You have
Tee.
to put the presentation on your laptop screen. Even though it thinks that it's sharing from your other screen, it won't. It'll only share from your laptop screen.
On the laptop screen. So you see it now?
Mm-mm.
And practice this too. How about now?
No.
You want to just run it, the name?
Yeah, send it to me. I probably have another copy.
Yeah. Let's see. I can send it. Sorry about this, everybody.
That's okay.
Okay, I sent it to you. Apologize.
There it is.
But then I don't see it.
Oh, you will in just a sec.
Okay.
Let me present. Okay. Can you see it?
Yep.
All right.
I don't, but I'll keep going. Okay, I've got it. So the benefits, we've had a robust process over the last 3 months with Mrs. Marks and our new HR person, Eva Opanasek, who's been working on this. We wanted to make sure that we had basically a great offering for our employees for 2021 school year. Next slide, we looked at criteria such as the full suite of benefit offerings for employees, competitive premiums and pricing, customer service. We wanted to initiate a customized self-service portal this year, so it won't be paper-based. We're super excited to share that with everybody. It will all be online, open enrollment. And then we looked at kind of the size of different benefits brokers and options that we had. Some of the vendors we looked at included those that are listed here on page 2. And we looked at both charter specific brokers as well as those in the marketplace. And these are some of the ones we looked at. So we're happy to go on slide 3. Our recommendation is to continue with Health Savings Associates. They have provided much better and excellent customer service this year. They're affiliated now with Acrisure, which is providing additional benefits to OPA through this partnership that they now have, a much bigger firm approach. So that's some of the information on slide 3 about them. So we're really excited that they have some additional things. So you can tell that they're very customer service focused now, and they've proven themselves this year to show that. On slide 4 shows their scope. It's a big organization, and we're benefiting from that. On slide 6, if we move there, wanted to let you know that OPA is among the top, is really at the top as far as what we're providing to our employees, the $11,000 that we provide each year, up to $11,000, depending on selected benefits. That's our employer contribution from OPA. and we're super excited about that. It is obviously over and above salary that that employees receive. So as part of the total compensation package. And it is competitive with our surrounding districts, in some cases more than competitive. We go to slide 8. Here's what we're looking at for this year, the medical rate history. You can see last year, 1920, United Healthcare was a new provider, new carrier for us at that point. And this year, what we have is a negotiated renewal. It's higher than last year, 6.9%. However, with Kaiser, and many of our employees are on Kaiser, we see the negotiated renewal has gone down for the 2020-21 school year to just almost flat, 1.02%. So the blended rate based on our employee usage, okay, and utilization is 4.2% for the increase, which is in line with what we see in the marketplace. As we all know, benefits historically go up year over year in some areas. So we think that again, negotiations occurred. We looked at the other options that I shared on the beginning slides with other possibilities for OPA, and this really was the best thing. The other great thing is we're able to keep United Healthcare. We made the change last year and keep Kaiser Permanente. So we think there's continuity, which is really important for our organization and for our employees and their families. Looking at slide 9, the marketing summary, we have, you can see some of the carriers that were looked into, okay, and some of the kind of the reasons, whether they're competitive with pricing, that kind of thing. And then we'll move into what we actually are proposing for this year on slide 10. While it's small to see, you looked at the right-hand column in your board presentations or online. You can see the 6.9% that I mentioned for United Healthcare. For Kaiser, the 1.02. If you look at the bottom, you'll see the monthly total for our 82 employees who are currently on benefits. You have current totals or annual totals that we're anticipating. It's really based on utilization again, so we don't know exactly where those totals will come in, and depending on employee selections, but you can see some of the total costs to the organization. We move to the next slide, slide 11. Some of the highlights for medical renewal include United Healthcare, what we talked about in Kaiser. The one I really wanted everyone to take a moment and look into and think about, we have a new plan that's being offered this year. It's a Harmony plan through United Healthcare, and it's a new option, and it's a narrow network option, which means that the majority of our employees there who are on United, their doctors, their physicians that they currently go to are in this narrow network. And I urge you to look, employees to look and check this out, because especially if you have family coverage or even single, you can save quite a lot of money, okay? So it's something for you to really look into closely, look at the co-pays, look at the deductibles, and see what works best for you. In that plan, the SV Harmony plan, when we did the analysis, we learned that only 10 individuals, and that's not 10 employees, that's 10 covered employees and family members on the plans out of the 44 HMO on United Healthcare are not currently using a PCP in the network. So many of us are using those physicians that could really be a cost savings for people. So we're very excited about that this year to roll that out to employees. So other than that, there are minimal plan changes at all on our current plans. We go to slide 12, dental, vision, group term life. We want to let you know that our group term life, our dental, our vision, actually the rates decreased by approximately 10%. So that's a win and a good story for everyone. No plan changes. We continue with group term life with a $50,000 benefit for all full-time employees, okay? And then the employee assistance program, wanted to highlight that as well. It is a part of what is provided to all employees. It's a benefit and offers, confidential assistance with stress, change, balancing work and life transitions. I think a lot of us would benefit from having a confidential call. I know I would from time to time. with all the change that we've been through. So it's a great benefit, and it's totally confidential. We at the company hear nothing about anything that you share, okay? And then at the school, at OPA. Then we move to slide 14, our technology. Super excited, as I mentioned. We're gonna have, there's a system out there called EASE, which several of the brokers we talked to shared, and we sat in on a webinar with regard to this. Learned about it. It saves time. We get rid of paper. It's 24/7, and employees can actually test what their deductions will be. Your benefits cards, ID cards, all that you can do yourself. So you won't be working that through HR. It'll be directly there, and HR is a backup support for you. And then for the HR department, we can run special reports. There's 1095 tracking capabilities. It makes it a lot easier to just administer the program. So really excited about this EASE, and we're moving into technology. We're moving into the last century, so we're pretty excited about that. And then this is what EASE looks like on slide 15. It's again, quite easy to use, and open enrollment will be handled, we hope, with ease through EASE, all right? So concluding, we look at competitive benefits every year for open enrollment to make sure that our benefit packages are great for our employees. We do that environmental scan. We have robust benefits when we look at the marketplace and our surrounding districts. I want to highlight that Harmony plan as a lower cost option. Dental and vision, they decreased, as I mentioned. And then EASE is a great tool that we're going to be using this year. So we're always looking to educate our employees, and we work hand in hand in partnership with employees to help them make the right selections for them. So what questions do you have, board members or anyone?
Well, first of all, David, I would like to say, this is Raymond, I'd like to say that great job on that chart. Can you back up to that, Amy, just so I can see kind of where we are? This is the bar chart where we were all the way on the left to show the 11,000. Is there,
6, yeah.
yeah, and so great job meeting that. That's awesome. We tried hard and challenged you guys to come up with a competitive comp plan, and I think we've been delivering on that. This is great. Thank you for that.
Thank you. It's been a team effort, definitely.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
This is wonderful.
Great, thank you again.
Fantastic. All right. We're going to leave it at that. I don't see anyone jumping in. Thank you, Mr. Barley.
You're welcome.
We will now move to item D, OPA Saddleback Valley School Report, Bridges.
All right, so hello everyone. Hopefully it's okay, but Miss Alvarado and I are asking if we can kind of combine our presentations into one. A majority of the slides are the same at both campuses. So we were thinking we can go ahead and get it all done in one presentation. I think Miss Alvarado will go ahead and be the co-host. So she'll run through the slides. I will let Miss Alvarado start with the SOC update on the slide, and then I'll follow with the Saddleback slide, and then we'll go from there.
Apologize for that. Give me a second. There we go. There we go. Let me just move our pictures over at the top. Okay. So we are presenting together because we have a lot of things in common that we are working together on. We will start with the SOC new ASB board. So things have continued to work the way we would normally do things at our sites. Our ASB advisors have been working with our students, motivating them, and also coaching them and helping them put together their videos that they use to campaign and run for the different positions that we had open at both sites. And I just want to congratulate our students because they did a wonderful job putting together their videos. I can tell that they put a lot of creativity and lots of work into it. Lots of families were part of those videos, which was wonderful to see. We know that our families are very supportive and very involved. So I'd like to announce that our president at SOC is Addie Matthews, vice president is Haley Taylor, director of activities Alyssa Taylor, and treasurer Peyton Mansfield. And they put together a really nice video. That's a short little video that I'd like to share with everybody. Give me a second here.
Hi everyone, my name is Addie Matthews.
Oh, give me a second. For some reason, it's not letting me expand or make it a larger.
While she's working on that, I can go ahead and congratulate the Saddleback winners. First, I want to thank Ms. Lynch, our ASB advisor, for putting the election together, working with the kids to get the video. And I would like to congratulate Maddie Wong, our president, Elise DeVore, vice president, director of activities, Tia Gutierrez, and our director of fundraising, Logan Welsh. And they are currently working on their video. So hopefully at the next board meeting, we'll have the SV video to share with you.
All right. Thank you. That's why we work together, Mr. Bridges. Here you go.
That's right.
Hi everyone, my name is Addie Matthews, if you don't already remember me, and I'm so excited to announce that I'm the 2020-2021 ASB president. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who voted and supported me. I can't wait to hear all of your guys' great ideas so I can put them into action. I also can't wait to make next year an awesome year that will be full of unforgettable memories. Stay safe and I'll see you all soon. Bye!
Hi, champions! I'm so thrilled to announce that I'm going to be next year's vice president. And if you don't remember me, my name is Haley Taylor. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for all your support, and I appreciate that you guys took the time to vote for me. And I just want to say stay safe, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!
Hi, champions. My name is Alyssa Taylor, and I am so excited to tell all of you guys that I get to be next year's director of activities. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who voted for me and believed in me. This would not have been possible without the support from you guys. I want to say that I'm so excited for next year, and we're going to have some awesome, amazing activities and some great memories that we will never forget. I hope that you guys have a great week, and I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!
Hi, my name is Peyton Mansfield, and I'm so excited to be your ASB treasurer for the 2020-2021 school year. Thank you all so much for your votes. I really appreciate them. I'm really excited to be your treasurer. Together, we can make OPA and our community a better place.
All right. So that is our video. Give me a second here.
Hi, everyone.
I'm sorry about that. I just need to.
My name is Addie Matthews. If you don't already remember me, and
For some reason, it's not letting me. There we go. Okay. So moving on to the next slide is we also want to acknowledge our Honor Society new board. And this year, we are finishing off the year strong. We already have selected our new Honor Society board. We have our president, vice presidents, and we have every single one of our positions filled, with the exception of the recording secretary, which we're in the process of finding someone. But we're just very fortunate that we've had an amazing board that I will acknowledge at the next board meeting. And we will introduce at a later time through video our new board as well. But I just wanted to acknowledge that we're moving forward and that we just continue to do great things.
And at the Saddleback campus, Tuesday night, we had a great Honor Society meeting, and they approved to purchase 80 to 100 new Chromebooks for the Saddleback Valley campus. So that's really going to help us transition and get a lot of those older Chromebooks that aren't functioning properly out of circulation, and provide our champions with some really new Chromebooks. moving into next school year. And our Honor Society this week is in the process of filling the board for next school year. So after this evening, a message went out asking for parent volunteers to apply. All the positions are open. So if you're out there, apply and you're interested, we really look forward to working with you next school year.
The next piece that we want to share, we're very proud. Mr. Bridges and I would like to introduce to you guys a collaboration between the SV and SOC professors who are in the process of developing summer enrichment opportunities, lessons and activities by grade level and also by multiple intelligence. The final document will be posted on our school website for families to utilize during the summer. I know that oftentimes as us educators as well as parents, we worry about that summer learning loss that happens, but now with COVID-19 and lots of other things that are very unusual and happening right now, that our students are not getting their traditional, the traditional education that we would normally get or provide for them. We are utilizing this document. So also our school counselor and school psychologists at both sites are working together to provide, to also add lessons and activities on social emotional learning. And at the bottom of this page, you can see a sample, just a half a page of what it would look like for parents. And our teachers are starting to add to this document. So you'll see on the left-hand side, the MI, which is linguistic, what the students learn best by. And then on the right-hand side column, you will, parents will see all the different lessons and links to activities that they can utilize during the summer. And again, each of these documents will be by grade level and also by MI. Mr. Bridges and I are sharing here pictures of our wonderful distribution of our lawn signs. We were able to, the 8th grade team, they were wonderful. They spent a lot of time working with our families, designing the lawn signs and also distributing on site and also personally distributing to their homes. Mr. Bridges also I can let him share how they did it at SV, but at SOC we had 2 different days where parents were able to pick up their lawn signs, and then the 8th grade team and I also distributed some signs to their homes. And it was a wonderful experience because a lot of our parents were so grateful to see their teachers, to see some of us, to have some interaction of some sort, of course, social distancing. But at the same time, I was able to talk to a few parents who were very excited because some of our students, out of 63 students at SOC, 23 of them have been with us since kinder. So this year is a very special moment for SOC.
Yeah, and the same at the Saddleback campus. We had a day where the kids come through, and I think that day showed everybody involved how truly we miss our students, you know, and the families as they drive through, and we have quick conversations about how they're doing personally, and not so much so much academically because we see them in the classrooms, but just how they're doing as a person. And that was real big for us to see. And, you know, I want to thank Mr. Chandler, Mr. Young, and Mrs. Millette for heading out there. It was pretty hot and providing this opportunity for the kids. And we had them take pictures with their sign in their yard. And we actually had enough time to get those pictures in this year's yearbook, which was fantastic. So at the end of the yearbook, you'll see all the 8th grade champions with their yard signs at the end. And I really want to say thank you to Mrs. Morawski, who is one of our parents who donated the signs for the Saddleback campus. So thank you to her for making this opportunity special for the kids.
Go ahead, Mr. Bridges.
Sure. So we've been planning a promotion parade. I know we've seen them online. We've been working with our 8th grade professors, our deans, anybody else that wants to get involved to plan something special for the kids. We met with the custodians today to talk about layout and setup. So it's going to take a team effort to make this seamless, but we're super excited for it. The kids really deserve something special, and everybody's on board to make it special for them. The only difference between the two on this slide is just the days. The SOC campus will have theirs on the 15th, and Saddleback will have ours on the 16th. All right, and another thing is we are actually partnering with Microsoft. We've worked with them all year long, and they reached out to us, or Ms. Alvarado reached out to them and asked if they could help us with a virtual ceremony. And we actually had meetings yesterday and laid out what it's going to look like. It's going to be a hybrid model. We're going to have pre-recorded speeches and events. We're going to have live portions as the cars come through and the students receive their promotion certificates. Again, it's a great event. We have another meeting next week where we're going to actually do a run through with all our videos and see how it pans out. But we're super excited. I know the kids will be super excited to come through and experience what we have planned for them.
Yes, and we just want to thank again Microsoft team for their support since the beginning of the school year. Actually, since summer, they've been working with us on different projects. And I was not surprised to see them help us out in coordinating and in planning for this special event, just to make it extra special for all of our students. And lastly, we want to, thank, there's so many people that we want to thank, both Mr. Bridges and I at both sites. But we want to highlight at this for this board meeting our instructional aides who work one-on-one with our students and who collaborate with our teachers. They work many hours. I just want to make sure that we, on behalf of Oxford Prep Academy, for both SOC and SV, we want to thank you for everything that you do. We acknowledge that you do so much work for our students, and we see you. We know that you're there for our students and that you work very, very hard. Our office staff, Hadley, Aurelia, Tori, Denise, Liz, Kelly, for preparing everything, all the hard work that it goes into the lottery. They've spent lots of hours and brainstormed and been working long hours and working together as a team to make this work. Our health specialists, Dina and Denise, for also their work on preparing throughout the year, but also now that we're welcoming our new families and making sure that the paperwork is completed and families have what they need to start the school year. And finally, our custodians, Oscar and Luis. We, again, on behalf of Oxford Prep Academy, without all your support and everything that you do, your work is not unnoticed. You do a lot for us, and we are just grateful to have you as part of our community and our team.
And there are a couple teachers that are at the campus that I want to thank at the SV campus. Miss Williams, the Battle of the Books competition was held, and one of the teams placed 4th. So congratulations to the Battle of the Books team, Miss Williams, and then Mr. Rectine in the academic pentathlon. The 1st of May, they had their online competition, and their award ceremony is tomorrow. So thank you to both of those professors for sticking with it and getting these kids prepared for these extracurricular activities. Thank you.
And that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that takes us now to item 7, items scheduled for discussion. And the only item we have here is item A, open instructional report with Dr. Kernan, Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Kernan, floor is yours.
All right, let me switch over. Okay, so we have had a lot going on over the last couple of months, and as we look forward to the next school year. So I just wanted to give, and this instructional update is kind of a whole bunch of different things put together. First, I just wanted to kind of go over real quick what our remote learning has kind of looked like. So all of our students and staff are continuing to provide remote learning through the end of this school year. So our students are on track to finish their grade level material. Some of our grade levels have actually, through this remote learning process, even been able to get ahead a little bit because we didn't have our state testing. And each year we take about 2 weeks out of our schedule to do state testing and then do some review on state testing. And so without having that piece built in, our teachers have actually been able to really delve deep into the curriculum and get our students so that they are going to finish out the year right on track with where they would be, with where they would have been finishing the year were we on site, on campus. Students participating in remote learning will receive trimester grades on their report card. And one of the later items in the board meeting is to approve our emergency grading procedures for third trimester. We don't want to harm students, knowing that some students have different situations at home. We want to make sure that although we want to still be able to assess where our students are in terms of their mastery of the content and the standards, if students are having issues and aren't able to access the online curriculum, we don't want to harm them by giving them failing grades. And so instead, we're going to be giving no grades or an NG on their report card for students who haven't been able to be part of our remote learning program. However, in looking at work, probably pretty similar to our attendance rate even when we were on campus, a similar amount of students. So between 95 and 97% of our students are really accessing the remote learning. So that's great to hear. And all of our instruction is going to continue through June 12th. And then we have June 15th and 16th set aside for kind of our end of the year class celebrations, awards, our promotion ceremonies that our two chancellors were just talking about, and different end of the year events. We want to make sure that our students are still able to have all of those end of the year activities and celebrations that they've been looking forward to all year long. And then we're going to have some staff professional development on June 17th, and then staff checkouts with the chancellors. The staff will be able to come back on site and pick up materials, kind of clean up their classrooms, and take home anything they need over the summer on the 17th and 18th as well. And like the chancellors, I just wanted to give a shout out and really thank our teachers and staff. They really made our remote learning successful this year. And it really is due to them that we were able to make such a seamless adjustment to remote learning and really get things started immediately when we had to go and dismiss the school. And that's the reason why our students really are on track to have covered all of their concepts and all of the standards this year. So that gets us to looking ahead to next year. And there's a ton of uncertainty surrounding what school is going to look like next year. And I know everybody's been watching the news and hearing different things that have been coming out from the governor's office, as well as the state superintendent of public instruction, CDE guidelines, and our CDC guidelines. So we've been really taking all of that information in and working with other educational leaders and really looking at the best plans for next school year. Our main priority, again, is really the health and safety of our staff and students, but we also want to make sure that we're ensuring our educational continuity for our students and that all of our students are able to have a really rigorous standards-based academic instruction. So some of the things that we have been looking at are different scenarios based on again, the CDC guidelines, and then looking at possible ways that we can meet those guidelines and ensure the health and safety of our staff and students when we do come back to school next year. So those scenarios include coming back where 100% of our students are on campus, and it's sort of a normal return to the school year. And then in following with the CDC guidelines, different scenarios, including having only 50% of the students on campus at any given time, 33% of the students on campus at any given time, and then 100% remote. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you a little bit about what those different scenarios will look like. Some other things that we have really been looking at are the health and social distancing guidelines. Again, possible 6-foot distance between students and student desks, and between the students and the teachers. Things like doing temperature checks and cleaning and sanitizing surfaces and classrooms in between each group of students. And then kind of one that has become sort of controversial in talking about schools, just because of the logistics of it, are, you know, students wearing masks, teachers wearing masks, things like that. So just looking at the health and social distancing implications. Also looking at instructional impacts. Again, we want to make sure that all of our staff and students are healthy and safe, but we also want to make sure that we're providing a quality education for our students, and that we are really making sure that our students, our students are very high achieving. We have a great school that really focuses on academic achievement, and we want to make sure that our students are still able to have those high levels of academic achievement. And then social emotional impacts. Being so isolated is hard for everyone, especially our students. And they need those interactions. We also need to make sure that we're still providing mental health supports to our students. We have our school counselor and our Scholar Academy team. And so we're looking at ways that they can help to mitigate those social emotional impacts. And then as we discussed earlier in the financial report, there are some pretty big budget impacts that have come down with the governor's proposed budget and the May revise. Where we are looking at about a 10% decrease in our revenue for next year. And then how returning to school and these different scenarios will impact families. If parents are going back to work full time, how does those childcare issues kind of correspond with the different scenarios that we're looking at for school, and making sure that we're providing options and information to families about childcare and different resources for them. So in examining our plans for next year, really we're looking at a lot of different impacts and different ways that our different plans will impact our students and staff and families. And parts of my slideshow didn't load. One moment. Oh, my little. Let me see. I'm going to show it a different way. Okay, so since it won't load, I'm going to show the reopening models. So we're really looking at 4 different models for reopening. One is, again, just 100% capacity. Our students are coming back to school just like a normal school opening. Then we have 50% capacity. So 50% capacity, we have 2 possible models. One would be AM, PM groupings. So one group of students would go for 3 hours in the morning, And then one group of students would go for about 3 hours in the afternoon, sort of like we used to have when we had AM, PM kindergarten, but it would go across, it would span all grade levels. That would decrease the number of students on campus at any given time to about 50%, or 15 to 17 students per class. The other scenario would be that one group of students would go Monday, Wednesday, and another group of students would go to class on campus Tuesday, Thursday. Again, that would be 50% capacity. In both of these scenarios, we would do our PE, music, foreign language, and independent practice virtually, and do our core math, ELA, social studies, and science during that on-campus time. And one of the things that has really worked well, and we've gotten great feedback about, is our small group Zoom sessions that have been happening during our remote learning now. So then each Friday would be small group virtual time for teachers and small groups of students to meet together to work on different areas where they're having problems, to provide more small group support and really touch on specific concepts. The next scenario would be opening at 33% capacity. There have been some different studies done from different architectural firms looking at a normal classroom size and what the CDC guidelines of 6 foot distance would look like. And through those studies, about 33% capacity for a normal classroom would meet those CDC guidelines. So what this would look like would be 3 different daily groups of about 10 to 12 students, each group of students going to school for about 2 hours, and those students attending Monday through Thursday, again, about 2 hours a day. So we would have sort of a morning session, a mid-afternoon session, and a later afternoon session. PE, foreign language, music, independent practice, again, done virtually, and then Fridays for those virtual small groups. And then the last model would be if we were, again, 100% virtual, similar to what we're doing right now. All students would be remote learning, but we would, because we kind of took the feedback that we've gotten through this process, we would most likely increase our core subject Zoom time, where students would have more Zoom whole class instruction in their core academic areas. But then also, because they've been such a success, continue with those virtual small group supports for all students. So really those are the different models that we have been examining. And I'm gonna flip back to my presentation and hopefully it'll play now. So as part of this creating our plan, we are really examining feedback not only from state and local leaders, but also from our OPA stakeholders. We've looked at the feedback from the original staff, student, and family survey that we had in March. We've been having the chancellors and Ms. Marks, Mr. Barley, myself have been having a lot of conversations with teachers and staff about how things are going and the different scenarios for next year. And we're also going to be putting out another survey on Monday, surveying parents not only about how the current remote learning has been going, but also about these different scenarios and which of the scenarios, especially between the 2 different 50% capacity scenarios, would have the least impact on our families between either day on, day off, or the 2 different AM, PM groups. Because we really want to know if families are going back to work and we still have to keep students at 50% capacity, what's going to have the least impact on our OPA families. And then we also have been doing, we sent out forms for our staff to give their preferences for their different grade level and program assignments. And also that includes staff interest in our IS program, our new IS program that's kicking off. And then again, also parent intent to return forms, including interest in our IS program. Different informational meetings. We're going to be having an independent study informational meeting. Just a little preview for everyone. Anybody who expressed interest in IS will be getting a personal invitation to that meeting either tomorrow or Monday. But we're having a meeting on next Thursday evening for any families who are interested in our new IS program. Also looking at curriculum, including our math programs and which ones are going to be the best in these different hybrid learning scenarios. And then a teacher feedback regarding what remote learning programs have worked best during this time. So taking all of that different feedback into account to sort of determine what is going to be our best possible plan for next year. And so sort of the timeline for that is at the next board meeting, we'll be proposing a budget that for the board to approve and for stakeholder input. And that budget will sort of incorporate some of our proposals for our learning plan for next year. And then in our end of June board meeting, we will be putting forth our kind of more specific plan that goes along with the approval of our budget that will we will still have the different scenarios. I don't know if we're going to be completely sure which scenario we're going to use, but it'll have a lot more specifics about how we're going to put the plan in place, what those different scenarios are going to look like, as well as which one of the 50% capacity scenarios we're going to go with based off of all of our different stakeholder feedback. So we just want to make sure that we have all of that feedback, as well as feedback on the proposed budget at the June 11th meeting before we put out that finalized plan with our different scenarios at the end of June meeting. And again, not loading. Oh, there it is. Okay, so the next kind of topic that I touched on is our new independent study program. We're really excited to be able to have had such a successful remote learning program during this time that we've been out of school. And in looking at that, we had a lot of parents who have expressed interest in putting their students on independent study because they just, some of them just don't feel comfortable sending students even at 30 or 50% capacity back to school next year. And so in looking at EdCode and looking at our resources, we are creating an independent study program, and we're going to have 150 spaces for independent study students, 85 students at the independent study program for SOC and 65 at SV. It'll cover all grade levels from TK through 8 based on the interest that we get from different families. It'll be sort of on a first come, first serve placement basis. It's open to all current and prospective families, and really it'll be very similar, again, to the current remote learning model. Students will have Zoom lessons, they'll have interactions with other students virtually, rigorous instruction, small group instruction, one-on-one support. It will be standards-based and using the same curriculum that we're using in our seat-based program. And again, we're going to have a meeting next Thursday. We've also just created a new IS webpage on our main OPA website, and it has information about the IS meeting as well as the application form to apply for the IS program. So as well as an awesome flyer that Jill and Communications Lab put together about our IS program to share that information out with families. So I encourage everybody, if you're interested, go and check out our new IS page. Still under construction, but there's a lot of information on there, including the application. So slowly, hopefully, it's going to load. Nothing wants to load for me. All right. So I'm gonna flip to another page. So budget and programs, and I'm gonna just overlay this because at least I have my little cool things on another sheet of paper. So in looking at some of the budget and program changes that we discussed and that Amita discussed earlier, we're examining various possible budget and program changes to meet the requirements of those different scenarios, as well as the budget constraints that came along with the governor's proposed budget. So in the first arrow here, we have some proposed revenue increases or ways that we at OPA can make more revenue. One of those is, and some program changes that can help us to be a little bit more efficient with our budget. So one of them, again, is our independent study program that I just discussed. Bringing in 150 new students will, one, give families a lot more options. And then in the second place, every one of those students creates more ADA for the organization. About $9,000 more ADA. So 150 students really does bring in quite a bit of revenue. Also looking at the virtual electives, foreign language and PE instruction allows for a little bit less equipment, things like that. So that can also be a cost saving piece. And then looking at online curriculum and resources instead of hard copy curriculum and resources also provides a lot of cost savings. And then looking at grants and other funding sources, we were very lucky that we had some donations of different technology equipment that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But looking really at other ways that we can make revenue. And then on the other arrow is possible spending cuts. So the first spending cut that we are proposing has to do with a salary step freeze. We wanted to make sure that our cuts stayed as far away from our students and staff as possible. However, with salary being almost 80% of our spending, like it is in any school, it's impossible to keep it away from that completely. But the governor every year, usually in his budget, puts in a 2 to 3% cost of living increase. And so we built that into our salary steps. So each year, teachers get about a 3% cost of living increase, and that's part of their salary steps on the salary schedule. Because the governor has frozen the COLA for the state, the easiest way to not have to cut salaries and not have to dig really deep into staffing cuts was just to follow along with sort of what the governor did and do to do that freeze of the cost of living increase. So teachers and staff members won't be getting their salary in this proposal. In the future, if there are more state budget cuts, this could change, but in our current proposal, staff members would not be getting a salary decrease, but instead we would be freezing their step where it is currently this year. So no cost of living increase or step increase. One of the other areas that we're looking at for possible cuts for the budget are a few different program cuts. One of them, and these again, we hope that the governor will be able to backfill some of the budget decrease or provide, or that, as Amita said, some of it we currently are not qualifying for because we don't have 55% or higher unduplicated. But there is a lot of lobbying going on because that is seen as somewhat unfair. So there is a lot of lobbying going on at the state level to make that more equitable, so that schools that do not meet that threshold will still be able to get an increase in their LCFF funding. So if that happens, then we will definitely be able to look at not having some of these program cuts, but some of the program cuts that we are looking at would be for things that most likely are not going to be utilized or have as much value added if we are partially virtual. So things like our library program and our science lab program would be areas where we could possibly cut because of the fact that we are going, that we could be going partially virtual. Other cuts that we're looking at, and again, trying to stay away, as far away from affecting our students as possible, are just cuts to operating expenses. We have moved our central office personnel to work remotely, getting rid of that Irvine facility so that we're not paying rent there. Decreases in utilities. We have had some cost savings just because we're not on campus right now. Decreasing our costs for outside vendors. And so just looking at cutting costs that are not instructional costs. And then also changing some positions from full to part-time, just looking at our staffing and the efficiency of our staffing at each one of the school sites, and looking at which positions we could change possibly from full to part-time so that those employees are still employed, but just cutting the hours down to what exactly we need those hours to be. So now let's see if it's gonna allow me to play the next slide. I jumped to independent study. No, it's not. Killing me. All right, so next thing that we are also looking at, I'm gonna try to make it a little bigger. For next year is our curriculum and resources, especially in light of these different scenarios. One thing that we've been working on this year with all of our teachers are looking at new math programs. Eureka had its problems in the past, but those were definitely highlighted even more now that we've been remote, since there is no really real remote component to Eureka Math. So we've been looking at different math programs, and we're going to be bringing forward the choice from our teachers at the next board meeting for a new math adoption. And it looks like it will actually decrease our cost for our math textbooks from what we were spending on Eureka. So that will also be an additional cost savings. For math, we're also looking at online enrichment and support programs and making sure that we have a lot of diagnostic assessments available, because we really need to be able to assess where we are, since this was an entire change to our instruction, this remote learning. For ELA, also looking at utilizing more online components of our current curriculum, online enrichment and support. And next year we are really going to be focused on writing and more skill-based learning. So not quite so much kind of memorization and knowledge-based, but more application and writing in ELA. Science, modifying our Amplify curriculum because it's so hands-on heavy. It's a little tough to do online. So we're going to be looking at modifying that and then focusing on project-based learning that students can complete with the resources that they have at home. And then finally, foreign language, optional, looking at online curriculum options, online assessment options, and then looking at making the foreign language program possibly optional for TK through 5, still providing that as an option for our students, but not making it a mandatory part of their curriculum or part of their educational day. And finally, again, can't pull it up, so with all of our remote learning, we've really had to focus on our technology this year. We applied for a grant through CDE to get technology, and we were awarded 45 new laptops that were donated by Microsoft that we're going to pick up tomorrow. So that's very exciting that we got that donation. We're also going to be looking at replacing all of our laptops that are older than 5 years, because as of right now, most of our laptops that are older, or most of our Chromebooks that are older than 5 years are having difficulties getting on Zoom, and they're not being able to hold a charge. They just, if it's 5 years or older, they just don't have the ability for students to be using them for all day instruction. And then replacing older non-functioning teacher technology. We're also looking at making sure that our security is updated, updating our Google Suite, and also updating our management software on all open devices. And then for resources, right now we're looking, we're kind of researching the best online platform for virtual learning for next year, whether it's Zoom, WebEx, or Teams. We're working with teachers to determine what online resources work the best, and we're utilizing current curriculum and online resources. So, flipping back again. Any questions?
That was a lot. Any questions from the board? You've wowed us to silence, Dr. Cadet. Thank you.
That is amazing.
It's hard to believe.
Thank you so much for doing this. I can't wait to read more of the plans as they continue to get formalized and see it at the next meeting. So
I have 12 questions. I wrote down 12 questions.
And how many sub-questions?
Just kidding.
Okay.
Good job, Amy. Dr. Amy.
All right. I agree. All right, that takes us now to board reports / comments. Ms. Campos, do you have any board reports or comments?
I do not.
Okay. I do not either. Mr. Jackson?
No, I'm perfect.
Cool. And Ms. Travis?
I'm good. I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work in this very trying time. It's incredible to see how everybody stepped up to the plate.
Definitely the case. Next up is the Executive Director's report. Ms. Marks, the floor is yours.
Yes, good evening. As you can see, our staff and our leadership team, our administrators, they're working beyond capacity, to tell you the truth. It's pretty amazing. And much of what Dr. Kernan presented will be going into some formal reports to our charter authorizers. And I also want to thank the staff and the parents who are attending this meeting or who will stream this meeting later on. Your participation is critical. And the fact that you're listening to information that's provided in this venue, I know that you'll be sharing information that's accurate, it's up to date to other families and employees. So thank you for joining us. And again, I thank those who are going to be looking at this telecommunications online. At the beginning of the school year, I made a statement that we are one organization with 2 schools. And I just wanted to just take a few minutes to talk about our work with Communications Lab, an independent third party that this spring helped us conduct survey and interviews to ascertain our OPA community's expectations and experiences and aspirations. We received between 500 and 600 survey responses from families, from students, staff, and the community at large. The data informed us that there are many OPAs. Our community doesn't share a common vision. And currently we are engaged, the board and the leadership team, in defining the work of what OPA is, which includes explicitly identifying what inspires OPA and what it aspires to be. And this process is including deep discussions about our vision, why we do this work, our mission, how we do this work, and our values, which form a common understanding of what is sacred to us. Our values are our boundaries. They keep us in line as we move forward, and they're telling us when we succeed. We will keep you updated about our visioning work. Again, it's really important that we define and defend what we want and speak about it with passion with regard to OPA. And that ends my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to item scheduled for action. And the first up is A, approve the emergency grading procedures for the third trimester of the 2019-2020 school year. During the period of the school closure, teachers shall provide grades to the students that reflect a do no harm approach. A student's grade on the report card shall not be negatively impacted by the school closure. Therefore, OPA has created emergency grading procedures for the third trimester in the 2019-2020 school year to include no grade for students receiving less than a C in any standard or subject area. It's recommended that the board approve action item A.
I make a motion.
Motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, do I have any discussion by the board? We're pretty quiet there. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and put this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Next up is B, approval of facilities renovation proposal to reconfigure several classrooms at OPA South Orange County campus. Several classrooms at the OPA South Orange County campus were modified in the past, which created inefficiently sized classrooms. In order to maximize facility use and prepare for future social distancing guidelines, New Dimensions General Construction, Inc., in collaboration with Capistrano Unified School District, has submitted a proposal for $18,452.66 to reconfigure 5 classrooms. It is recommended the board approve action item B. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve.
I second the motion.
Wow, you guys are fast. Okay. Now we have a motion. Anybody want to discuss?
I'd like to discuss. I'm wondering if this is, I love the proactivity that's what's going on. And I have to tell you, I never in my wildest dreams expected to ask this question, but are we a little bit ahead of ourselves in this? In that, are we going to spend $18,000 that we might not even return to school in September? And I don't even know if I should. I mean, I feel crazy even saying that, but
I'll answer you. So this is something that we've actually been looking to fix for the last 2 years. So not only does it sort of solve some of the issues if we do return to school with our social distancing and making sure that we're able to follow those guidelines in those 3 classrooms that we're reconfiguring. But just in general, I mean, we are going to return to school at some point. And it is a need that we have at SOC because really those 3 classrooms have been somewhat wasted space per se, because the 2 8th grade classrooms are twice the size that they need to be. And so the space in the back of the 8th grade classrooms is just completely wasted space. And then that takes away from those other 3 classrooms. And so although it's kind of an odd time because we're not sure if we're going to be going back or staying remote, the chances are that we will be going back in some sort of capacity. But even if we don't do it next year, we will need that classroom space looking forward into the future. And now because we don't have any students on campus and we're not disrupting classroom activities at the same time is sort of the perfect time to get it done, because it isn't being a disruption to the normal everyday activities over at SOC.
okay, fantastic answer. Follow-up question is there anything that we can do in preparation for this work that would help us position these to be reimbursable by COVID reconstruction funds should they become available from, for example, the federal government? Is there something we can do to position this, or pay it out of a special account, or do something that helps us?
So it may be reimbursable as part of our FEMA funds. We don't have to pay for it in any particular specific way. All we need to do is when we are turning in our reimbursement claims through the FEMA portal, add this in as one of our safety precautions for social distancing. And then it could be part of that reimbursement along with our cleaning and sanitizing costs and equipment and materials and also some of our communication costs that are related to our communications regarding COVID-19 and student safety. So that would definitely be something that we could add as part of that reimbursement.
Okay, so then that sounds like it's a scope of work opportunity. So we need to make sure that scope of work doesn't include some ancillary thing that would get the refund or rejected.
Mm.
You have 10 items on there. 9 of them are totally reimbursable. Have a construction company do some other thing that's cosmetic, which kicks it back from FEMA. So maybe just give it some extra screen and make sure maybe we need to have 2 scopes with the construction company. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to turn in a receipt. We need to make sure that receipt is 100% reimbursable. There's not any one thing on there that might cause a rejection. Just a thought, and I'm done.
Yeah, and we actually took, if you look at the quote, we actually took out all of the different cosmetic things. For one, because of our budget constraints, we wanted to keep it to just exactly what was necessary for the health and safety reasons at this point, and we can add in the cosmetic things later. So that hopefully will answer that question and make it so that we are able to get reimbursement, but we'll also look and just make sure that there isn't anything else in there that is more cosmetic and less health and safety.
Okay, love my executive team.
All right. Any further comment from the board or discussion? All right. Seeing none, the motion is to approve agenda item B. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Next up is item C, approve the 2020-2021 extension of OPA pregnancy disability leave sick time pilot. As a 2019-2020 pilot program, Oxford Preparatory Academy offered eligible employees the option to utilize up to an additional 2 weeks, 80 hours of an eligible employee's accrued sick time during an approved period of pregnancy disability leave. This pilot program will be extended for the 2020-2021 school year effective July 1, 2020 and will expire on June 30, 2021, on or about which time OPA will review the pilot results. As with any policy, this pilot may be changed or revoked by OPA at any time. It's recommended the board approve action agenda item C. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve action item agenda C.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All right. Any discussion, questions, or comments from the board? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This motion passes unanimously. Last up is D, approve the 2020-2021 OPA employee benefits package. The 2020-2021 OPA employee benefits package includes medical, dental, vision, and life insurance. It's recommended the board approve action item D. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve action item agenda D.
Do I have a second?
I have a second.
All right. Any questions or comments by the board?
How does Mary she got like front of the line privileges here or something? What's happening?
I think she's just faster than you, Mr. Jackson.
Goodness gracious.
All right. With that insight and no further comments or questions, all those in favor of approving the 2020-2021 OPA employee benefits package, say aye. Aye.
Happily aye. Happily aye.
Oh, happily aye. That's got to be at least 4 votes. All those opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes unanimously. It's now time to adjourn. It's recommended that the board adjourn the regular meeting of the Oxford Preparatory Academy Board of Directors on May 28th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Whoa, Raymond, that was your last chance till next meeting. Do I have a second?
I second.
Ours were decent.
We have a phantom member on the board. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Those opposed? This motion passes. We are dismissed at 8:47. This meeting is adjourned.